What's going on, friends and fam? Thank you so much for watching Every Day is a Saturday with your host, me, myself, and I, Brian Roof. Hey, guys, another great day, another great episode, and I got a great interview in front of us. My next guest is a former sergeant in the United States Marine Corps. Brian's life forever changed when he was nearly killed after falling victim to VA medical malpractice and gross negligence in 2016. Not wanting another veteran to experience his nightmare, he spent 5 years working on a bill called the Brian Talley VA Employment Transparency Act. He also started a podcast called Today with Talley, giving people a voice. Let's meet Brian Talley.
Good morning.
What's going on, brother? How you doing?
Another day, another dollar, man. Just trying to get stretched out here, having some coffee, and joining you today, Brian. How are you?
Hey, I appreciate you. I'm doing well. If I was doing any other way, no one would give a shit, right? That's what they say. But hey, I appreciate you, Brian, for coming on, man. Go ahead and give us, your whole spiel about who Brian is, why you joined the Marine Corps, and kind of give us your little bit of your story, man.
A little bit about where I'm from. I was born in Youngstown, Ohio, kind of a pretty hard blue collar city. And when I was 3, my little brother was 1. My mom left my dad, so I grew up in a single family household. We went to San Diego, Southeast San Diego, just on the other side of 32nd Naval. And that's where I grew up. I grew up in San Diego until I was about 15 years old. My mom remarried, and that took us to Colorado. So I would end up doing all my high school years in the mountains of Colorado and playing football at 8,500 feet. and then after that, I just joined the Marine Corps right out of high school. I was 17 years old. And, I joined because I was a fighter. I grew up fighting. So I'd get suspended from school all the time. I think having that single family household, not having a real father presence in my life, just a lot of boyfriends here and there, and really no one to really latch on to until my later years. But that caused me to fight a lot. And so, again, my grades were a reflection of that. And, that would ultimately lead me to the military because I didn't have the grades to get into college, nor did I want to do any more schoolwork. I'm not a school guy. So I joined the Marine Corps, would end up staying there 5 years. I was a logistics guy. I was a red patcher. I was on a lot of helo support teams. I PCS 3 times in 5 years. I was in Lejeune. I was in Okinawa. I was in Pendleton. Got to see a bunch of different countries and stuff like that. Made a lot of great memories and, a lot of lifelong friends. So
that's great. Yeah. The Marine Corps is a great place, and a lot of people who don't know the red patcher in the Marine Corps, they had to wear a red triangle on their covers. It was like on your guys's.
Yeah, it's a 1x1. Yeah, it's a 1x1 square right under the eagle, globe, and anchor, and then a 1x3 patch 3 inches below the cargo pocket centered. So it was, and no, we don't have HIV. That was always the running joke. Oh, those guys got
right,
AIDS.
Yeah. Marines will always find some way to give you guys, some ball busting shit.
Well, yeah, and I was a thick Marine too. I mean, fuck, I won the arm wrestling competition in '97 in Okinawa on the island. So
hell yeah, nice.
I'm not gonna have any guy come up to me and say, "Hey, you have AIDS." What I mean?
Yeah. Let's see about that.
Oh man, but it was pretty good experience. Got out, started a family, became a family man. Got 4 kids. My first daughter, she was born on Camp Pendleton. And,
nice.
She's 24 and living in San Diego. She never really left. And
that's where my daughter's at right now, San Diego.
Yeah. My daughter lives in PB, and she spent her whole life in San Diego, and even graduated from San Diego State. And
oh, that's outstanding. Yeah, I mean, San Diego is beautiful. If you're gonna live in California, San Diego's a good spot to live in. Yeah, my daughter's she's at UC San Diego.
Okay, yeah, nice. Yeah,
first
that's
year.
it's right up on the mountain there. That's where Chris Bryant went. Yeah,
Yeah,
big baseball. I'm a big
yeah,
baseball guy, so I follow these guys from college all the all the way to the pros. So
yeah, man. You know, like the total details. Like I know what high school he went to and everything. But
yeah,
not
Vegas actually. Chris Bryant. I think
is
he.
that
I think
right?
yeah, he grew up in Vegas, um, and then he went to UC San Diego.
At least he got to get out of
Oh
the
no,
desert.
USD. He went to USD, the University of San Diego,
Okay.
and then of course he got drafted by the Cubs, and now he's a Rocky. But
Dang.
he's not as good as he used to be. Of course, I'm a Rockies fan, so I know that.
Yeah, and I think you're a Broncos fan as well, which
Yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
I'm a Broncos fan too.
There you
But
go.
bada bing, bada boom. But so all right, man. Yeah, continue on with kind of once you got out and you started having your family. I know I kind of
Yeah.
got you derailed there, but
Yeah. No, we're not derailed at all. We're just having a conversation.
conversation, absolutely. Drinking some coffee,
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah, totally. So, I'd get out and I would start a company, custom landscape company, that was, thriving. I'd been in business for 13 years in Colorado and in Southern California. I kind of bounced back and forth there. And uh, so I had my own private doctor in Colorado, but I didn't have one in the California area. So in California, I used the VA. And so January 2016, of course, we're living in Temecula, and I'm running the Inland Empire and Orange County and Northern San Diego County for all my custom landscapes. And I just couldn't get out of bed one day. One thing led to another. And it would end up being a horrifying 4 months of egregious medical malpractice and gross negligence that would take place, that would nearly result in my death. I was completely incapacitated at the time for over these 4 months. My wife thought she was doing everything right. Feed me up to 40 pills a day, just to keep me alive and to get me through the day. The pain was unbearable. The VA, for months it was just delayed and denied care, and they never really diagnosed and started to work on fixing what the overall root cause of the problem was. All they did is that they just treated the symptoms. So I would be, injected with high-end opioids, a lot, from Dilaudid to Kenalog to methocarbamol, a lot of Dilaudid.
Were
And
you
then,
getting
of course,
addicted
all
and
your
stuff like?
opioids.
Were you getting like addicted and stuff like that too,
No,
or
I
no?
don't like that stuff, man.
Right.
Because I mean,
Well, that's
now I
good. I
have
mean, because a lot of people start getting addicted, man, when they start
yeah,
putting all that stuff in these folks.
yeah. They sent me. I mean, I had 360 count pill bottles of hydrocodone and Percocet and all sorts of stuff. And unfortunately, I needed to use the majority of all that stuff. I mean, I don't have anything left.
What year is this right here? You're talking right now?
What?
What year is this you're talking right now?
2016.
2016. Okay.
Yeah. So 4 months, of me living in a chair and, not eating, not going to the bathroom. Really, I mean, I wasn't really putting anything out in, so not a lot was coming out. And I was a 285-pound guy when I got hurt, pretty solid. And then I got down to about 220 pounds very, very quickly. And I just looked like I was dying, and finally we went down to San Diego after going through the choice program and had a surgery. It was pretty much a, let's open them up and find out what's wrong, kind of like an exploratory type deal. And they found a mess in my spine. It was oozing with inflammation and just in very, very bad shape. The infectious disease doctor and my surgeon called it. They explained my spine as being moth eaten. it had deteriorated so much, and from the spinal bone itself to the disc to the nerves to the tissue, all the damage had been done. And I'm lucky to be alive. The infectious disease doctor thinks I should have died anywhere between 10 to 14 days. Sepsis should have set in, and
Mm.
ultimately, that bone-eating staph infection that I would end up having, that aggressively ate my spine and internal organs for 4 months, could have very easily hit my bloodstream, and like I said, put me into a septic type shock, and ultimately shut down my organs and kill me. But my body, it fought it off, and and I'm here today, and I've really changed my life over the last 7 years, and now I'm just trying to tell my story, in ways that'll make sense, that could add meaning to other people out there that may be going through some hard times or some difficult times. I know during my story, we would end up losing so much. I lost 5 years of my life. I spent in a room in a chair, even after, my ordeal was over and I had all these surgeries. And, I lived in a room. I was depressed. I lost my business. I lost my company. I couldn't go get out there and do the work I was doing, because even after the surgery, I lived in pain. And I'm talking, I still live in pain. I live at a 5'6", but like back then, even after the surgery, I was living in tens. Like I said, I was taking 30 to 40 pills a day for years. And like I said, it was just to make it through the day. And this has no addiction to it. I mean, it was just pain, emotional pain, physical pain, mental pain, anguish, again, the loss of, our savings account, the loss of a rental property I had, the loss of, um, you know, uh, my business, my equipment, everything that I've ever worked so hard for. And I think that was the most difficult part about this story, is that I've always been a provider. I got four beautiful kids and a wife of 25 years, and I've always put the family on my back, and I've always, provided in ways that to give them the best life. A lot of the times, the life I didn't have growing up as a kid, um, and yeah, and that would all come crashing down. The positive that came out of it is that, my family never folded, and a lot of people say, well, you're lucky, a lot of wives would have bounced, and, families would have fallen apart. And, but my family just grew stronger. They recognized that I had their back for, their entire lives. And now their dad went down, and it gave them an opportunity to kind of step up and kind of have my back, during these tough times.
Yeah, what a moment to learn from as a family. And these kind of moments are the moments that either break you or make you. And it's always great to have that family behind you, man, because you could have been in a whole different mental state from all those things that you just listed. When people do those things and lose those things, that's when the walls start crumbling down and everything really starts going bad. Because we just we tend as humans to make things worse, sometimes before we get them better, and because we impulse or something. But having a strong support system, it's why you're here today. You know what I mean? And you got a beautiful home, beautiful family, and you guys look, I've seen your guys' family pictures and stuff. You guys look like a great family. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So it's great that you guys were able to stay strong, man. And like you said, things could have went a whole different direction for you, and thank God it didn't.
I mean, it wasn't easy. I mean, and the walls
No,
did
I'm
cave in,
sure.
you
Yeah, I'm
know.
sure there was moments and times.
The walls did cave in.
Yeah,
I didn't come out of my room for 3 years. I lived a horrifying life of anxiety and depression and pain.
yeah,
And, and I knew it was over. My business was done. My health had been stripped away from me due to no fault of my own. I lost my business. I learned I lost my means of making an income, and now here I was finding myself, in a whirlwind of nightmares, just trying to figure out how in the hell did this all happen. And so it would lead to the next phase. That's when we filed a federal tort claim within the VA for the loss, for the pain and suffering, for again, for the loss of my business, for the loss of my equipment, my family vehicle, our savings account, our my wife had to rack up credit cards to keep our family afloat. We had to keep those bills paid. And it's a blessing. We had a lot of good friends and family that kind of stepped up and in our dramatic in major time of need and helped pay some of those bills, and I'll forever be grateful for that. But we filed a tort claim, again, for the injuries. And the VA came out publicly, made a statement, and stated that they were sorry and that they were very apologetic and that they were going to be settling my claim, and that it should have never happened. And it was a horrifying case. I mean, I was being eaten alive from the inside out. A lot of people don't understand that. I was being eaten alive. I was being eaten alive by a bone-eating staph infection that nobody could see. So on the outside, oh yeah, he's fine. But on the inside, I was being eaten alive. And they didn't know that because they never did any diagnostic testing. They never did blood tests. All they did is they just feeded it with high-end opioids to try to mask the pain, and pills. I mean, it's about as egregious as it can get, and
Here's some Band-Aids,
yeah,
so to speak.
yeah. And again, I thought my wife was doing everything right. Again, I'm in an incapacitated state. I'm having panic attacks on the ER floor because I'm in so much pain. I mean, I remember the second time I was at the VA ER, it got so bad I fell out of my wheelchair, and because I couldn't walk. And still to this day, it does take me a while to get going. But I mean, I have a bladder that's completely and permanently paralyzed. I've got problems. I've got a kidney issue now. I've got all three levels of my spine have been compromised, and that continue to deteriorate every single day. I'm very prone to infection now, just because of the length I had that infection. It'll always live in my body. It's just probably dormant now. But yeah, I mean, I got to get my blood tested every 3 months now. So, everything changed, for sure. But we filed that tort claim. They came out, they were apologetic. They were going to settle my claim. At the 1 year mark, they dropped the bombshell, and they stated that we found that the person that we're going to hold accountable for the injuries that you sustained is an independent contractor working within the halls and the walls of the VA. Now, no veteran knows that they have independent contractors working in the VA. Everybody has VA doctor's coats and VA badges and VA laptops, VA business cards, and nobody would ever think that they aren't VA employees. I mean, so one thing would lead to another. They would deny it. There was 12 clinicians that failed to meet the standard of care. And they cherry picked the one independent contractor, threw her under the bus, did an about face, and left me and my family holding the bag. And that was the essential kill shot that put me deeper into anxiety and depression. And that's when a lot of, and I hate to even say this word, but there was times I didn't even want to be here anymore. So I would take more pills, and I would take more pills. Maybe I wouldn't wake up. And that wasn't Brian Talley. That was a broken man in pain. And it hurts me to even say that because I love my family so much. I mean, I'm here for my family. I mean, there's nothing more special to me than my 4 children. I have a beautiful relationship with, and my wife, like I said, at 25 years. I'm a family guy. I don't go out to bars. I mean, I have dedicated my life to my children and to my family. And to even have that some sort of mentality even pop into my head, it still haunts me to this day.
Yeah, man. Geez, that's tough. And I know, and I appreciate you sharing that, by the way. That kind of stuff's not always easy, but it's important this day and age to share things, so people can learn from it. Someone out there watching this can hear your story and see, how you've been able to navigate through things. Um,
Hmm.
but like I said, I appreciate you sharing that part. Um, but anyways, man, keep on going with us, and let us know how you kept on
Yeah.
fighting, and take us down the road of.
So I went to my congressman, and I said, and at this point, I'm over 300 pounds. So I've been living in a chair for years, and like 310 pounds, completely quit at life. And I said, what just happened to me is criminal, and it's fraudulent, and it's downright frightening. And this was now 2018, early 2018. Found out it was like the day after Thanksgiving, 2017, about what they did with this whole um, accepting responsibility and then deflecting it off the backs of these unidentified independent contractors. So 2 weeks later, my congressman's indicted on federal charges for for screwing up in Congress, and so Congress lost all confidence in Duncan Hunter, and he was forced out of Congress, and he had just been reelected. So now, again, strike three, you're out. Like, you have no voice. You're living in the only congressional district in the United States of America that doesn't have a representative in Congress to give me a voice in Washington, D.C., to figure out what had happened in my case. And now it's the biggest case in the VA. And again, I have no voice. And that put me even deeper into the chair, and bad times, man. I mean, talk about, knowing that your life is done. Like, you'll probably never own a home again. You're probably going to end up losing this one. You've already lost everything else. Of course, you got your family, which is the most important thing. But I mean, I could have never imagined myself living in some, beat up apartment down the road, 4 kids and all that, due to no fault of my own, because we have no income coming in and all this other stuff, and all of my injuries, and, all this deflection. And it was just insane. I had worked too hard in my life, and I've accumulated too much assets for this to be going on to a good family. So during my weakest and most vulnerable time of need, I had a big coming to Jesus meeting with myself. I got up out of my chair. I stumbled to my bathroom. I kneeled over my tub, and I just started to pray. I prayed over that bathtub, and I filled that sucker up with tears. And I said, God, just guide me. I'm about to take on the federal government, the VA, and I'm going to draft my own bill. And I will become my own honorary member of Congress, if you will. And I will put in the work and the efforts to learning how to draft legislation, and how to read bills, and how to lobby, and how to put this all in bill form, and additionally show up on a red eye in DC and deliver that bill that I had drafted to the very steps of the Capitol building, where I would go door to door and walk the halls of Congress, urging lawmakers to change this outdated law that at the point had completely destroyed the lives of my family and myself. And before too long, I had a ton of traction. I had my first bill introduced by Congressman Dave Bratt in the 115th, let's see, in the 115th Congress, HR 7105. And then that would die in Congress. And then I would start the next Congress, 116th Congress, and I had 3 bills introduced that I had drafted all myself, with no voice and no representative. So I had to go to congressmen and women from across the country to influence them to introduce my bill to close this 74-year VA legal loophole that has been so profitable for the VA, because they're not paying out these rightful suits because of their way that they can blame it all and put all the culpability on these independent contractors, but not tell you until your state statute of limitations had run out. That's how they started to begin to protect their independent contract doctors. So I mean, what they did is absolutely beyond criminal. It's beyond fraudulent, and to do it on the backs of veterans, vulnerable veterans, it is, again, it's about as I mean, I use the word frightening because that's what it is. I mean, it is frightening, and you're all alone, and you're on this island, and you're like, man, everything's caving in. You know, like you said, the walls caved in, and this next 3.5 to 4 years of my life, I would be in Congress. I'd be lobbying. That's when I started to get 1% better every single day. I made myself a promise that I would see this all the way through. I have a very OCD personality. And so once I began this mission that I promised myself I would see all the way through, it became an obsession, and it would rob another 3.5 years of my life. So it was like I was beginning to neglect myself, because I wanted this so bad, because I needed it for closure. I could not move on with my life knowing that this VA legal loophole was still going to be out there, and that I had every card in my hand to prove it. So it was reaching for that reserve energy and using it in a positive way. I knew I couldn't go in there and raise my voice. I knew I couldn't go in there and use my vulnerabilities and my own story as somebody to feel sorry for. I had to put all this in third person. I went back to boot camp. Okay. This is what's going on in the VA. This is the problem. This is the solution here. Yes, it happened to me. Yeah. But the bigger problem is that we got 20.2 million American veterans at risk of this. And a lot of members of Congress didn't know about this shoddy work that was going on at the highest levels of the VA on that 7th floor on Vermont Avenue in Washington, D.C. You got the Office of General Counsel up there that's getting rich, again, off the backs of veterans who have been hurt in VA hospitals. So what I did is I just exposed it all. I did it in a positive way. I went in there, I killed them with kindness. And again, I delivered a solution. I thought it was my duty as an American, my duty as a veteran, to stand up in the face of adversity. And it was healing for me, even though it was very hard and very difficult. And I had so many days of challenge and anxiety, and that would turn into depression, back to anxiety. I mean, I found myself in the ER 3 times over a 3.5 year period for panic attacks, because I could not begin to heal from my injuries that are lifelong. Still, I'll be dealing with for the rest of my life, until this bill was passed in Congress. That would ultimately be my compensation. My compensation would not come in a monetary value, and that was fine. As long as we had closed this VA legal loophole, that was my time to say, okay, now I can begin to live again, and now I can begin to heal. So the best day of my life was, one of the best days of my life was January 5th of 2021, when President Trump signed my bill into law. And, and doing something that's so unprecedented, that, I mean, it made me feel good. I had accomplished a lot of goals, but at the same time, it was very sad that it took a private citizen to stand up, to do the job of Congress, to do the job of these elected officials born to protect us, and we just weren't getting that. And so it shouldn't. it shouldn't be put on the back of a guy like me, a taxpayer, an honorable contributor to society. So that's where, a lot of my issues lied with, these folks that should be uh, helping, and there's something, now I've become the name and the face of VA policy. And I'm not afraid to put my website out there and so much stuff. And, and this is no joke. I get over 300 text messages sometimes a week. I'll get that in emails per month. And I hear everything bad that's going on in the VA, unfortunately, because they see, oh, this Brian Talley, you go just Google it. And it's like, oh, everyone's like, oh, fuck, I need to contact this guy because he'll understand. He'll know my problems. But the problem is, man, that takes a lot of a guy. Like, that's a lot for me to unpack all the time, is hearing everybody's story. I'm not a 501c3. I'm not a nonprofit. I'm just a guy. I'm just a guy. And, and I think after getting, a lot of these messages coming in, I was on a walk last August, and God said, "Hey, you're going to start a podcast." I don't know anything about podcasts, and and then that's when I started my own podcast, and in August, and the goal behind it was to add some real life value to the lives of everyday people. And hear it from folks like a Brian Roof or a Brian Talley or whoever it may be, and not some celebrity or out there you don't have any connection to, or you don't have any real life connectivity with these celebrities. Just hear it from regular old guys. And now I was able to talk about a lot of the issues that were going on in the VA and how these stories were coming about, or have these positive type podcasts that talk about perseverance and resilience and overcoming, life's hardest struggles and challenges and obstacles. And a lot of the times it gave me the platform now to speak to all these people without having to speak to them all individually, because that was starting to weigh down on me so much. My wife said, "You can't do this anymore. Like, you literally spend 12 to 13 hours a day now just helping veterans with their own, with their own issues." And again, I had already lost, so many years of my life being sick and being neglected. And then I would go on to neglect myself. And then as I started to heal and get 1% better, that's when everybody started to pile on and say, "Hey, I need help too." And I said, "Okay." And so I dedicated my life to helping all these people. I've returned thousands of emails and text messages and phone calls. And at the point, it started to wear me down again, because in order for me to give good, wisely counsel, and I don't mean legal counsel, I mean friendly counsel. It's a godly thing to give counsel, and to help those people that are going through some tough times. So I didn't have a Brian Talley when I was going through my fight. I had a lot of great friends and family that stepped up, but I didn't have somebody to the knowledge that I know now of the muddy waters to navigate in the VA system. And so I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about how the system works. And so those people looked at it like, well, this guy could be a true asset to what I'm trying to get done. And again, it took a lot out of me, and it put me right back almost to that anxiety riddled body, and I'm still struggling with it today, because I woke up with another 4 emails from just last night, veterans that are going through the system, that are being, either mistreated or whatever. And I'm not anti-VA. I think there's a lot of good in the VA. I think there's a lot of bad in the VA. But I don't hear the good stories. All I hear is the bad stories.
Yeah.
And these people are desperate, and they get ignored by their own members of Congress. They get ignored by their U.S. senators. They get ignored by the VA. And so they're like, well, this guy won't ignore me. And so I've put all that baggage on myself to say, I can't. And so I don't. I've gotten to the point where I'm very, very quick at responding when people have problems. I have like 50 different, pre-written text out. All I got to do is just change the name because I know a lot of the top 50 issues. And, and I'm there as a resource now. I can quickly turn them on to somebody that can help them. Because again, I'm not a lawyer. Um, I'm not a legal expert. I mean, I do have well over 11,000 hours into lobbying and VA policy and policy advising and drafting and reading in lobbying. So, I mean, I guess I would be considered an expert by the definition of anything over 10,000 would pretty much create an expert. But the expert is so broad. I mean, I know a lot. I'm pretty educated in what's going on, but indeed, no expert, just because laws change all the time, policy changes all the time, and it's all political, so you have turnover of the VA, you have turnover of, and every VA is different, so it's been a struggle. And like my wife says, she goes, got 4 kids, they play sports, growing up, and you spend so much of your time, you're helping veterans, and she's not against it. She has a heart too, trust me. And she went through this hard time with me. But she also says, you need to live your life too. It's time to start healing Brian a little bit. You can't fix everybody. So I take on some cases that I can to help advocate for the ones I think that are in the most need. And then those that aren't as bad as some, I can refer them to VSOs. I can refer them to some of the assets that I've met along the way that can help these veterans going through their times of crisis. I can't sit down with them and do a VA claim. I'm not that guy. Again, I'm just a guy that can offer some sort of encouragement, to say, hey, look, why don't you stand up and fight for yourself? You don't need me. You could do all this on your own. Because if I could do it, you could do it. And again, after being eaten alive for 4 months from the inside out, damn near losing everything, and having 1 strike, 2 strike, 3 strike, everything that could have went wrong did. But I still found it in myself to get up, to find that inner strength, to find that reserve energy, and get up and actually put myself into the game and grow. And it was uncomfortable, but I made it happen. And that's what I'm doing now today, is telling people you can do the same thing. And so now a lot of the messages I get are positive. Brian, I want to draft my own bill. Can you help me? Sure. Go listen to episode blank and blank. I did an episode on veteran advocacy, how to draft a bill. Go watch it. Call me back if you have questions. And so now I'm able to communicate with a wide variety of people that are going through a lot of the same challenges. And I don't need to be on 100 different phone calls. It's just one email. So, it's just different ways I think God is using me, as a bridge, if you will, to help people, from point A, get to point A to point B, because there's a lot of veterans out there. And again, I think the reason why I was successful in Congress is because I never lost my bearing. I was angry, and I was hurt, but I never lost my bearing. I said, if I'm going to go in here and I've got to fight honorably. I can't go in there and ruin my family name and my children's names and my wife and everything that I stand for. That's exactly what I did. I went in there again. I worked and I fought honorably, and it was hard at times, but you got to just tune out the negativity. I had my days of negativity, but I never showed up publicly. That's when I'd go in my room at night and I'd cry and I'd say, how in the hell can this even happen? But it does. And then I started getting thousands of others before me that this had happened to, that had been going on since 1946. And those emails, kept me going, knowing that I was doing something right, knowing that I would be making a generational change to a law, again, that has destroyed the lives of veterans and their families for far too long. And again, it shouldn't have taken a private citizen, a private veteran, if you will, to get up and do the job of Congress that they have promised the American people to do.
That's great, man. You know what? The Marine in you obviously has proven that you're never gonna stop. And you're still fighting, charging up the hill, so to speak.
Yeah.
And still fighting the fight in a different manner, and you're doing
Yeah.
it selflessly too, because what you're doing isn't just for and like you said, there's a lot of this that you're not even going to benefit from, but there's
Oh no, there's no
hundreds and
money.
thousands of others that are going to, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? So, um, but
Yeah.
everything that you've gone through, man, it's even the rough times. That's one thing about being a Marine is learning to accept failure. Because in the Marine Corps, failure could mean death, or or loss of other life. So when you're outside in the world, and you equate everything, and you start feeling like a failure, it really gets rough, man, because you're just like,
Hmm.
we're not used to having to weather so much, because everything that we typically set out to do with our missions, we're going to accomplishment. We're going to accomplish it one way or the other. But I the fight in you, you can see the flag behind you. Makes me just, it reminds me a lot of you too, man. You're out there fighting, trying to raise that flag up too. And it's just a different manner, but you're helping a lot of people out, whether you believe it or not. And a lot of people are probably looking to you, because when you do see someone successfully succeed at something, you're like, man, how the hell could he do that? And of course, everybody wants you to hold their hand, but it's better for them to go do it on their own, because there's so much more of an accomplishment when you're like, I did, I went, I fought this,
Hmm.
and I'm sure there was people that kind of coached you along the way, and helped you kind of get there. But I
Oh,
mean, I know a
absolutely.
lot of it is probably, all your feet work and your heart ache, and you're, putting your family kind of on the back burner at times. It's the, man, I salute you in much respect and much love, man.
Thank you. Yeah. Um, I completely had lost my purpose in life. And again, I couldn't find my new purpose until this was all done. And it actually would end up actually being my purpose. And it was the worst job I ever had. Is being a non-paid veteran advocate, is being typically when you do a job, you're rewarded at the end of the week with a paycheck. And that paycheck is in monetary value to where you can put food on the table, you can pay your house mortgage and your car and your insurance and clothing and vacations and all that stuff. And for 3.5 years, 4 years, I worked in Congress from sun up, sundown. Some didn't even sleep. I mean, you're talking over 11,000 hours of advocacy, the thousands of emails and the phone calls, the call to actions. I had to make myself look bigger than what I actually was. I had to get into creating my own content. I had to get into to maneuvering and to strategizing well in advance of what I would end up like. I would have to play out of my head. Okay, how's this meeting going to go? And I'd be prepared for it either way. Pre-written letters, folders, making this look, hey guys, this is a problem here. I had to go in there and again kill them with kindness and not raise my voice. The second you raise your voice, you're done. They'll turn you off and you're done. I wasn't going to be spending money I didn't have to put on a credit card to go fight for the good of the country to fail. I just wasn't going to do that. And like you were saying, this has come to no benefit to me. The benefit to me are these bills behind me, that my name is forever inked into federal law, knowing that I was the last guy that they were going to absolutely destroy due to this loophole. And that right there is more valuable than any dollar amount. I moved from Southern California. We did not lose our home. It's pretty much the only thing we didn't lose. And thank God I had, friends and family to help keep that house afloat for years. But we made some money on it. And now I live in Houston. I mean, talk about, a major change, but I was able to come in here at quarter cost, and kind of start over again in 2020, if you will, and begin to rebuild my new life and to get out of the home that had brought so many bad memories. It was good memories at the beginning, and then it was just full of really bad and horrific memories. So I needed a fresh start somewhere, and and Houston, has been good to us, and it's been good to my family, and I plan on staying in Texas, for the until God tells me I gotta go elsewhere. But this was a move, like I said, based solely on somewhere where we could begin again and buy a house, and live in a nice neighborhood again at a quarter of the cost. So I was never made whole, if you will, but with the moves that my family and I have made, we're kind of making ourselves whole again, and again starting over with new opportunity and living a better quality of life without always just not doing anything because you don't have any money to do anything.
Yeah, I don't know if you call it a fresh start at life, but you're definitely getting another chance to go somewhere and kind of leave back some of that negative energy and all the bad memories that you had. And this place is a place where you get to build new, a new beginning, a new forward. So that's great, man.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's been good, and and I wanted to share something with you too. I know we talked very, very quickly on my story, but if anybody's interested out there, I wrote a book. It's called "I Didn't Choose This Job; It Chose Me." It's a very quick read. It has a lot of pictures in it, and it tells the story in a very quick way. And there's a lot of valuable information in there too that could help people go through a lot of their own life challenges, as well as how to pick yourself up and enter that arena and to take that adversity head on when it knocks at your door, and to be able to open that door and look it straight in the eye and cut right through it, and move on with your ultimate goal, and that's to create and make positive change. So what happened to you never happens again to anybody else. And again, it all had to do with my mental closure, my emotional closure, my physical closure, and now I could start taking care of Brian Talley again. And in a sense, of my injury, I do intermittent fasting now. I eat one time a day because my organs have been destroyed inside my body too. So I need to give them time to rest. And so people look at me like, "Oh, wow, you're doing so good again." Like, but I put so much pressure on myself. I mean, I make sure I get my steps in every day. I eat one meal a day. I starve myself the majority of the day, but I'm used to it. I've been doing it now for almost 4 years is when I began to intermittent fast. And I've never missed a day, and I've really learned how to do it well. And, so there's a lot of discipline that I really worked into my life since this, has all happened. But I never thought I would see myself. I was always, a guy that worked, 16, 17 hours a day at my custom landscape job. And then when I was done, we'd go out and do sports stuff and all the stuff with my kids and family. But now I live in a different completely capacity. I mean, I wrote a book, and, I passed some bills in Congress, and now I've got a podcast, and, it's just like my life changed in ways that I would have never, ever, ever seen coming or ever imagined. I never thought I'd be a lobbyist. I mean, I'm not a lobbyist. I don't get paid to lobby. I'm more of an advocate, but it still does take a great deal of lobbying, in influencing. If you're ever going to do anything, in Washington, as you know, it's a bunch of red tape, and but it is what it is.
So, you know what? Let's go ahead and talk a little bit more about the Today with Tally podcast. And let's talk a little bit more about that. And hey, have you had like a favorite guest? How many guests have you had on now and stuff like that?
So I've done 163 episodes.
Oh, sheesh. Okay.
Since August. Again, I'm very OCD. When I put my mind on something, I'm kind of all in, and I've kind of taken the last 2 to 3 weeks kind of off a little bit. I had a pretty I had a podcast that I did that kind of it uh it made me pretty sad,
The
and
family.
yeah, and I needed to step away for a little bit, because again, I get really emotionally attached. And then we
You're
went
an
on.
empath, huh? You're pretty much like a empath. Take on a lot of
Yeah.
people's. Yeah.
And so, I took a little bit of time off of that, and then I just did my first podcast again on Friday. But I took 2 weeks off, so it's no big deal. So I'm still in there, but now it's baseball season. We've got my son plays competitive baseball, so down that it's summer. High school ball's done, so now we move into select ball, and that takes me all over the state of Texas. And that's every Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And it's all day Thursday and Friday. So again, that leaves me Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday to do a podcast now for the next 3 months. So I'm going to try to put out 1 to 3 a week still. Again, man, my podcast is no different than your podcast. And I never realized how many podcasts there are out there. Holy cow. Like, I just figured, yeah, there's, a couple podcasts out there, whatever, I'm going to start one, and I'm just going to talk about life's challenges and how to overcome them and this and that. And all of a sudden I'm 163 deep, and I've found so many great people that have awesome, inspiring stories to share. And, I look at these as like little mini town halls, because, you don't, a lot of people aren't face to face anymore. A lot of people aren't having these types of conversations. Like me
Yep.
and you right now are sitting down. It's like we're in a coffee shop, what I mean? And we're just having a simple conversation. A lot of people don't really have those simple conversations anymore because they're so consumed with life. They're so consumed with politics. They're so consumed with day-to-day stuff and
Absolutely.
the hustle and bustle of work and everything else, traffic and blah, blah, blah. And the world has become a place where you want more information. And again, we're living in some times, I think, that are very biblical, and that a lot of people do need some sort of encouragement and inspiration. And sometimes you need to just turn the music off and turn on good talk like this, learn from others, and just know that you're not alone out there, and that there's other people out there that are going through great life. Success, is always very important to talk about that, because, unfortunately, a lot of these podcasts are full of negative, 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 and then they end good. But there's so much positive out there that could really, really be shared on how that guy built $1 million home, and how he succeeded in his business through entrepreneurship and through education, and through, acquiring knowledge and having skill sets that are going to make an impact on that person's life and the life of his family and the life of his employees or her employees, or, whatever it may be. There's so much success out there. So I find those success stories, and all those positive stories, that they've never really had any massive life-changing type situations, but have experienced some adversity, and how to get over those humps. And then I've contacted people like me who have had insane stories, that are mostly all sad, and then they sometimes end okay, and sometimes they don't. So I think it's important to have that balance there to kind of share all, if there's any value that could be added to anybody's life, is what I'm talking about on my podcast.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's, I'm kind of like you too. When I started the podcast thing, I didn't realize how many were out there until I started kind of looking into more podcasts, and all that stuff. And then all of a sudden I was like,
Mhm.
wow, there's like a community of podcasters and stuff like that. And,
There's a
um,
lot. It's crazy.
yeah, there is quite a bit. I think when it comes to podcasting, though, it's definitely not a sprint. It's more of a marathon. It's kind of like, this day and age, everybody wants that quick thrill. That's why the reels get a lot of attention. I know when I drop a reel, that little 15-second, 5-second clip, it gets over thousands of views. The episodes that are hour plus, those ones, you could see that people start dropping off after like 5 minutes, and then, oh, something's calling me over here. We're just
Yeah.
so sporadic. As I've gotten older, I think that's something that I love, that I'm getting the ability to do, is kind of stop and smell the flowers, so to speak,
Mhm.
and kind of and like see what's around me by the details, and say, wow, this is what a great, beautiful sunset that is. When, sometimes people never even know that what the sunset looked like, one day or the other. But, as I'm getting older, I'm appreciating that kind of stuff. And I think it's important for us all. And I wish I would have learned that more at a younger age, but,
Mhm.
when you're in your early 20s, you're trying to be that alpha male, still trying to go be that breadwinner. You got all this society pressures of, got to go out there and make this, good job, good pay,
Yeah.
but
No, I totally feel you, man. I mean, I'm the same way. I'm a man of gratitude. I'm a man of gratitude. Like I said, I go on my mindfulness walks all the time, and I listen to podcasts. I mean,
yeah,
like
that's me
when I
too.
go out, I listen to other people's podcasts when I'm on my walks. And then when I can't hear any more talk, I just go to music, and that doesn't really last the whole hell of a lot, because I'm like, man, I've heard these songs over and over again, and these songs don't
Exactly.
do anything for me except for maybe motivate me for 2 minutes to walk, and then what? So I'd rather learn, from other people's stories. I mean, I think podcasts are very educational. Again, it's, finding that genre, that fits for you. I mean,
Sure.
they have so many different genres out there, and it's just finding, somebody that you can, resonate with, and kind of have that, those similarities too. And I mean, it's really nothing but just kind of building a virtual relationship, with your listeners out there, and just spitting truth, just talking honest to God facts, and being vulnerable, and just, you know making the best out of bad situations, or thriving, and and doing some great successful stuff. So again, I think that podcasts are very healthy, for people to be listening to in this day and age.
It's kind of crazy to me. I didn't ever think. I kind of grew up liking radio shows myself. Like, I liked Howard Stern a lot. There's a Mark and Brian show here local. There's all these different radio shows that I really loved. And now it's kind of like an opportunity that I gotten to do due to technology allowing us to kind of do this. And it's the cost is probably nowhere near what it used to be for people to go out there and do. I mean, some of the equipment we're running is what they had in, the big times, but now that the things are, the cost and everything has gone down, it's giving us average Joe blows out there to go out there and kind of live our dreams, when we were younger, growing up in the 80s and 90s when radio was a thing. You always heard the radio playing on the
Mhm.
car, in the background somewhere. There was just always a radio station on, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up listening to AM radio. I grew up listening to, the Padres, the Rockies, the Broncos. I mean, I've always been a political radio junkie. I just love AM radio. I still
Yeah.
listen to AM radio today when I'm in my truck.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I
Um,
remember cruising with my grandpa, man. I always had some AM radio on there with some Rush Limbaugh or something. Like he just, yeah, always had that, the politics going, and it was
yeah,
great. Good times back when we were young with the radio. Now it's
yeah,
everything streamed, you
I
know.
like Michael Berry here out of Houston. He's pretty good. He's fun. He's real. He makes it somewhat comedic. In this time of people, you know,
It's too
don't
serious.
really celebrate comedy anymore because everybody's
Right.
offended by everything. But
I'm gonna get
you need,
canceled.
yeah, you need to laugh. You need to have some sort of comedy in your life. You need to, there's too many uptight people out there. People need to just take a damn deep breath and, and again, go out and do those walks of gratitude, smell those roses, check out those trees, check out the leaves, watch the birds, sit down, reflect. You could do this in traffic too. You could literally do it in traffic,
Yep.
just find just look around and look at other people and look at, like, I wonder what they're thinking right now. I wonder how I wonder how that guy's day went, because you never know who you're surrounding yourself with out there and what type of life they may be living. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, this world is wild. The life is wild. And, and until you really start to open your eyes and kind of look around and experience, what's going on around you and your surroundings and all that stuff, man, you'll be surprised. I mean, there's a lot of signs out there that God will give us. And, not 99.9% of us will never see those signs coming, but I've got my eyes open. And so I'm always looking for those signs. And, those signs is what helps mold me into the man I am today, because I do make changes. I continue to work on myself every single day to get 1% better, and continue to be there as that counsel, as a father to my children and to my wife, and to my animals and to my friends and to my other family members. And I mean, that's what it's really all about. I mean, we're all in this life together. We're all walking this life. It's not an easy one. It's full of ups. It's full of downs. It's tough at times. It's beautiful at times. At times it's scary. At times it's, you know, nothing can go wrong, And so those are the moments that you live for, and live to fight another day, man. So,
You got to ride those highs when you get those highs, man, and you got to embrace them and enjoy them and not take it for granted, because any given moment we can have a bad situation right in our hands, you know.
yeah, yeah, no, there's days I don't want to go to bed because I had such a great day. And then there's still those days where I'm like just trying to find the bed because nothing could go right or whatever. And, it's, after you go through some pretty, hardcore life battles and life challenges and life changes, for years that don't ever stop, and everything just changes. It does create a lot of post-traumatic stress, for other reasons, and smells and memories and and surgeries and all the stuff.
Trigger points,
One day you're
right?
living the American dream and the next you're on your knees, and you're trying to figure out how you're going to get back on your feet. Sometimes you don't. And like I said, I was 99% done. I had nothing left to give. I had 1% left to give, and that's how I've kind of built that 1% motto. I just continue to get that 1% better every single day. Sometimes it's a little bit more, but it's never less than that, because 1% ain't nothing. I mean, that's just, you know, picking up a piece of trash in your neighborhood. That's just saying hi to, Mrs. Smith, who's bagging your groceries at the local Kroger. I think you got to have those relationships. You got to, be nice to people, and just go about living your life and hope for the best, and hope for the best for the country. I'm always praying for my country.
Absolutely. Yep. Well, Brian, hey, I really appreciate you coming on, man. Is there any last minute things you want to share with the listeners or watchers?
If you're going, if you're battling, through pain and anxiety and depression and anything that could be, holding you down, know that there there is light. at the end of the tunnel. I never thought I would see the light. It took me 6 years to see light again. And I remember year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4. I mean, horrifying years. And you just got to always, remember to, stay inspired and do your best to stay encouraged and stay motivated, and, and just always stay in the fight. That's, some of the most important hallmarks that I've picked up over the years of my loss and the years of my hardship that my family and I had to endure. So you just got to hang in there. Just got to hang in there.
I appreciate that. I appreciate the message, Brian. I really do appreciate you coming on and sharing your story. I know it's not always easy to share some most intimate parts of our lives, but sometimes it's necessary for others to hear it, because you never know who could learn from that. You know what I mean? So it's things can't be learned if they're not taught. You know what I mean? So like I said, Brian, thank you so much for coming on and being such a selfless person and fighting for, each and every one of us veterans out there. I appreciate you.
Education costs money, but knowledge is free.
Bada bing, bada boom. That's a great one. All right, Brian, I appreciate you, man. And if you could just hold tight, make sure we got everything.
Yes, sir.
Like I said, thanks again. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching Every Day is a Saturday with your host, me, myself, and I, Brian Roof. And until next time,